Time for 30-second board hot topics here, leaving Glendale. The obvious one, the hottest, is Eli Tomac. Wins a Triple Crown again. And oh, by the way, more history made, Daniel.
Jason, if you were to ask Eli Tomac right now, what's more meaningful? The 51st win of his career, number 2 all-time, all alone, or the 7 points he got on Webb in Glendale, which one do you think he would choose?
Yeah, he's been ducking the historical thing all year long. He's only worried about the next race, the next point, the next title. So we know what his answer is, but maybe someday he finally looks back and exhales on this.
He's going to have to. I mean, come on. Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart. Those two names in this sport are like so unbelievably legendary for so many reasons, and he just went by both of them. So sorry, Eli, but we're going to recognize it now. Maybe you will someday. But man, was he good on that night again. Coming out of the break, hyping up this championship titan battle between the two. And Jason, he took care of his business. So Eli, we're going to give you the love you deserve on Glendale because you do. But man, 51. I don't think you're getting to the king. So guess what? You'll never have to probably hear about this again.
He took care of some other business too. I didn't even realize this. I'm announcing opening ceremonies on the floor, and I didn't know what was going on here. Credit to our Will Christian from the broadcast team for picking this out. There was a gender reveal for his truck driver in opening ceremonies for Eli.
How rad is that? He comes out of opening ceremonies, gasses the throttle. The fumes out of the exhaust are it was meant to be pink. It was a little bit of a darker pink, but they figured out right away that his bus driver, who he said has become part of his family, is now going to be a dad, bring a girl into the world. And what better way to do it? I've seen them all over the internet, Jason, but to have opening ceremonies at Supercross, find out the gender of your baby. That's a first and probably one of the raddest things I've seen this year.
Now, we always like Triple Crowns, and we anticipated a topsy-turvy, you don't know who's going to win to the finale race like we had at Anaheim 2 and Arlington. Not quite this time. More Tomac love here. This would have came down to, for me, this track kept everyone close in times, but Eli was the only one that had 3 good starts. I believe we are now in a world where Eli Tomac might be the best starter in the 450 class. That surprises me more than hearing he's second all-time in wins.
Yeah, go figure. Eli Tomac is an incredible starter now, and it started a year ago at Glendale. He was starting outside of the doghouse. Everyone's wondering why he's doing that. He nailed 3 good starts there. Then he comes around a year later, and it's all starting to make sense. He's executing off the gate, and his line choice on the gate has played a role too. So, yes, in a Triple Crown format where you need to be good in all 3 starts, Jason, he was the only one to be good in all 3 starts, which goes to Chase Sexton. He was fast. He was great at moments, but in the one start that mattered for him, the first one, he didn't get it, and he didn't get the win.
Yeah, and same thing for Webb. Webb was very good, actually, in the first race. Shadowed Tomac most of the way. On a track we figured Tomac would be significantly better than him, but then starts weren't there the next 2, and that led to chaos for Webb. And worst case scenario for him, he finds himself battling Jason Anderson and Justin Barcia, and he knows, we know, everybody knows, you do not want to have to go through those guys to make up points.
And Jason, I think that's what actually led to the night falling apart for Cooper Webb. He didn't get the start in race 2, found himself in a battle with Jason Anderson, a battle that ended up having some serious implications. Webb goes inside, tangles with Anderson. The next corner, Anderson holds him high. No drive to the whoops. Barcia ends up passing him. And now you're back in a battle with the 2 people you would never, ever, ever want to be around if you're in a championship fight with Eli Tomac. And it all started with the start, with his gate pick, his execution, and now he's back there in the middle of those 2.
Okay, now let's move to the 250 class here in 30-second board. Finally, it's over. I interviewed Jet Lawrence after the first qualifying session, and he even acknowledged the I haven't won a Triple Crown thing because he said, I knew you guys were going to ask about it anyway. So good news for him. We're no longer going to ask about it.
Yeah, and I want to touch on this gear thing, okay? This break the curse gear thing. I'm hearing that, they're denying that. No, they're not. Trust me, I talked to their camp the morning of the race. They said they were going to run 3 separate gear kits, all race-winning. Jason, this isn't even like another clean pair. We're talking the actual gear he raced in when he won. That's how serious they were to break the curse, but then there was a little curveball. Alpine Stars said, no, you're going to switch back to your practice gear. But no, don't let them deny it. They were really looking at this as a curse, and he did break it with the help of his skills, not his gear choice.
That's really funny to me because for pretty much 99.9% of motocross riders out there, you're always wearing gear that you've worn before. But at the factory level, the fact that you're wearing gear that you've raced in one time before is like shocking news throughout the pits. Shows how the other side lives. But it's really cool what's happening in the 250 class. Starting this year at Anaheim 1, for the first time ever, the top 3 250 riders get invited to be part of opening ceremonies. And this meant a ton to Freckle, the veteran Mitchell Oldenburg. It's like a life goal achieved.
How rad is that, Jason? I mean, he now has 1,000 points in the 250 class. You think he cares? No, it's that 10 seconds of opening ceremonies, which, Jason, you've seen these crowds. They go nuts. The fireworks, the smoke show. To be a part of that, even if it's just for 10 seconds for a rider like Mitchell Oldenburg, it's 10 seconds he'll always remember. And it's a feeling I'm sure that he's never felt before, having everyone focused just on him and the lights and the music and the sound. So they do an incredible job, but to be a part of that for someone like Mitchell Oldenburg, it's just a huge accomplishment for him and his team.
Dream come true for me. Obviously, a little kid coming to the races. Yeah, I never thought it was going to happen, honestly, because I've been in the 250 class for so long and never really had the 450 future, I guess. And then this year, that was the goal when I found out that a couple 250 guys got to do opening ceremonies. So excited, bummed for Cameron. Obviously, that sucks that he had a mishap this week. But yeah, just get to live one of my dreams coming out opening ceremonies.
Yeah, I know Tony Alessi, Mike Genova, everyone there at Moto Concepts was really happy to get in. Let's move the focus to 250 East now. We're going to Atlanta. Kind of similar story there to the West. Lawrence brother, Hunter in this case, for the big points lead. But I think of Atlanta, I think Nate Thrasher is where he kind of really put himself on the map as a race winner. He's very good here, so it's not over yet.
Yeah, from a points perspective, maybe it's not the most interesting situation, but from an individual race, it is. Thrasher's great there. Jordan Smith, how are you going to respond from not making the main in Detroit? Hayden Deegan got a podium in Detroit. How are you going to be with a couple weeks off? And now you're going to a racetrack that's not that far from where you practice and train. I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited for the 250 East. Just don't count on anything happening too spicy in the championship unless Hunter Lawrence somehow magically just decides to not be incredibly perfect like he's been almost all year.
Look, we just want both Lawrence brothers to be healthy and ready when they have the showdown in a couple of weeks. One other story here. Supercross Futures, we have a new winner. Daxton Bennick had won the first 2 Futures rounds of the year. Julian Beaumaire bust out his first ever win, but this is bigger than that. Beaumaire's career here, now as a factory amateur at KTM, was born, was created with Supercross Futures as a scouting tool. Tell the story, Daniel.
Yeah, well, for Julian Beaumaire, he's been around for a few years. People recognize that he's a good rider. He has talent, but you're a little unsure of these kids coming up, what they're going to be. But he comes out at Anaheim 2, sets the fastest time of anybody in Futures, and was 4th overall in the 250 West. The next thing you know, Star Yamaha's walking over, talking to him. KTM's talking to him. He gets a ride, and then 2 races later wins a Supercross Futures race with all of his friends and family around to boot. So, yes, the program itself is awesome. It gives the kids a chance to race under the lights and in the crowd. But for me, the most important part of Futures and why it's going to be successful is it allows these kids to race against the kids they've raced their whole life. You don't have to race Hampshire and Shimoda and the Lawrence brothers. No, you can start here. And again, this program gave birth to a rider who had a lot of skill but needed to show the factories on a real track. He did that, and now he's arrived. It's awesome. It worked perfectly, and that's the way it was designed to work all along.
Time to wrap up this episode of SMX Insider. Championship rolling to Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is interesting. It's a day race, so adjust your clocks here, everybody. Race day live will start at 9:30 a.m. Good luck with the early rehearsal and show-up time there, Daniel. This is all to have a 3 o'clock window live on NBC, which is always huge for the sport.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.